You get to college. You begin your classes. You're given your first reading assignment, and it may be a big one. What do? Do you approach the task the same way you approached readings in high school? Perhaps you never fully read the text you were assigned in high school. Perhaps you tried to read the text, but you struggle with comprehension and recall. Or perhaps you just hate reading, and engaging with the text challenges your ability to focus. That's okay. Believe it or not, that's true for a lot of students. This video aims to challenge some common ideas about what reading is, why we read in the first place, and who you are as a reader. Like any academic task, reading is a process, and there are strategies that can make that process more productive and less anxiety-inducing for you. So, let's start there. Students often come to college classes self-identifying as bad readers.
I'm good at math, but reading and writing really aren't my thing.
What even is this article? Do people actually understand it? I think I'm just bad at reading.
But the truth is, there's really no such thing as good or bad readers. Are there people who read regularly and who maybe even find reading pleasurable? Sure, but we challenge the notion that the average college student either is or is not inherently a reader. If you found yourself struggling to maintain focus on longer, more rigorous texts, you're not alone. Sustained, close reading is a growing challenge for everyone. We live in a world that is constantly competing for our attention, and we're surrounded by media that has trained our brain to engage only in short, distracted spurts. You might even argue that the current media landscape encourages us to limit our capacity for reading text to, well, around 280 characters. In his well-known essay, Is Google Making Us Stupid?, journalist and writer Nicholas Carr explains how the internet has changed the way his brain engages with longer texts.
Once I was a scuba diver in a sea of words. Now I zip along the surface like a guy on a jet ski.
That is, while Carr used to dive deeply into text, he now engages in more superficial, surface-level reading. Like Carr, you may feel like getting through the longer reading task is a struggle. So what can you do? It may be helpful to think of your brain like a muscle, and a potentially powerful one. The brain's ability to read and engage can be improved with practice, or, might we say, exercise. Consider this. Your best friend texts and says, "Let's go run a half marathon today." You don't consider yourself a runner, and you don't run regularly. What is the likelihood you could throw on some sneakers and successfully run those 13 miles? Probably slim. However, if you started training, beginning with relatively short runs and building to longer runs over the course of a year, could you reach your goal of completing that half marathon? It's very likely. The same can be true with reading. You might not be able to easily work your way through a 30-page scholarly article yet, but you can build your brain's capacity to handle that kind of reading. This means that even if you struggle with reading now, that doesn't mean you'll struggle forever. The more you read, the easier the task will become. Remember when we said that there is no such thing as good readers? In order to better understand what we mean by that, you must also understand that all reading tasks are different and, therefore, require different mindsets and approaches. Maybe you actually enjoy reading some things. In fact, we're almost certain that you do. Your social media feed, car magazines, gossip columns, comic books. However, when you sit down to read, say, 3 chapters from your Psych 101 textbook, something just feels different. It doesn't click, and you don't enjoy the task. Once again, you're not alone. Even experienced, hyperliterate people, like, say, English instructors, don't enjoy everything they read. Okay, here's a dirty secret you've likely never heard a teacher say. Reading isn't always supposed to be fun. In fact, one might argue that, much of the time, reading isn't that enjoyable. That's because enjoyment is not always the purpose. We read, or are asked to read, for many reasons. To learn something, to support an argument or position, to respond to an idea. However, if you read your Psych 101 textbook the same way you read the latest issue of Popular Mechanics, then you're already setting yourself up for failure. Ultimately, how you read depends on what you read and why you are reading. In college, you will be asked to read for many classes in a variety of disciplines. Each of those disciplines approach what we call reading differently, and both the purpose and the process for reading tasks within those disciplines can vary. Just as you wouldn't want to read your Psych 101 textbook in the same way you might read that issue of Popular Mechanics, you should expect reading for, say, English classes to be different than reading for history or philosophy or biology. As you navigate the demands of different courses, you can look to your instructors as your mentors for how to complete literacy tasks. What kind of questions do they ask? What details do they notice? What are they looking for? And how does that inform the way you should engage with the reading? The bottom line is this: there is no such thing as a good or bad reader. There's no one correct way to read, because every reading task is different, has a different purpose, and requires a different approach. Your job as a student is to assess what each respective reading assignment requires and to adapt your approach accordingly, paying close attention to what strategies work best for you and your goals. That concludes our introductory discussion of reading for college. To learn about specific strategies for reading, be sure to watch Part 2. Link is in the description.